Here I am, there you are watching me. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to get into the papers, and we're joined by mining engineer Ernest Ayesu. He joins us. He is our guest for the review this morning. But right before we get into that, just so you know, this segment is brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And what are they offering? Free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. And you can locate us across the country. So let's start with Accra. Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. That's where you can find us in Kumasi, Kronum, Abuehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takoradi Anaji Estate in Tema, Community 22 is where you can find us. We're also in Techima and Hanswa and Esiama and Zima. Now, if you'd like to call us, this is how you can reach us on the following numbers: 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Well, we're joined by Ernest Ayesu, and he is our guest this morning as we get into the newspaper review. He's a mining engineer. Ernest, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Benjamin. Good morning to you and your viewers as well, and my constituents at the Sunyan West.
Right. Over the last week, we've had quite a number of stories, happenings. Is there any particular one that struck you, that really got your attention, that you'd like to maybe touch on? I mean, I think between the last time we spoke and today, we've had the sonar. Yesterday, we had that unfortunate incident of the KTR market going up in flames, among a number of things that have happened. Anyone that got your attention?
I was still dwell on the sonar, having missed out on the update on Agenda 111. Access to healthcare is a bit of a concern to me because looking at my constituents. It's one area I would also want to probably in the future push for access to a better healthcare system. So missing on Agenda 111, which is a post-COVID flagship promise or program by the administration, having to be missed was one that I feel was a bit of a crucial to me. But there was no update where we've gotten to, how many have been completed. Which ones are at various stages of completion. All those updates had been given. We later saw social media being awash with images of completed, ongoing structures of these facilities purported to be the Agenda 111, which I feel was very unfortunate.
Right. Well, let's get into the newspapers now. We'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. And danger looms at Pantang Hospital. It appears we leave everything to just go rot, just go rotten, just fall apart. What kind of culture is this? I mean, before I get into it, it's crazy. Our maintenance, and especially it points to the fact that we don't take mental health seriously in this country. Not one bit. Not one bit.
Yes.
So hundreds of... Yes. I just wanted to say that before I get into the story. I will allow you to come in right after I at least read what the story has. But danger looms at Pantang Hospital. Hundreds of squatters occupy perilous structures. And if you can see a shot of the newspaper, you would just see the aluminium sheets. Just look at that. One of the deteriorated buildings earmarked for demolition, but being occupied by some squatters and staff of the hospital. How can we even expect people to live in a place like this? Well, per the story put together by McLean Kofi of the Daily Graphic, about 1,000 squatters occupying uncompleted, dilapidated buildings at the Pantang Hospital in Accra risk their lives living in those structures which have been declared unsafe for occupancy. Constructed in the 1960s, a little after independence. The 27 structures, made up of 7 3-story apartments for senior staff, 9 bungalows for doctors, and 11 separate medical wards, were declared unsafe after a structural integrity survey commissioned by the Ministry of Health in July 2021. The structures were originally envisaged for the expansion of the hospital, but that did not materialize. Rather, hospital staff nursing students and other residents of the hospital community have been using the ramshackle structures as dwelling places against warnings by the government and the hospital management for them to vacate the buildings. Information gathered by the Daily Graphic at the Ministry of Health indicated that the survey recommended the demolition of the structures as a better option than rehabilitation from a cost and structural competence point of view. However, the structures are still in active use in spite of the danger they pose to lives and property at the hospital, nearly a year and a half after the survey was conducted. I have a number of questions before you come in, Ernest. Who conducted the survey? If the survey said that demolition was the next step, why is this building still erect? We say the doctors, other hospital staff should get out of that place. But where would you have them go? I'm sure if they had options, if you had given them a better facility, they wouldn't be inhabiting this one. And fourth, are we waiting till disaster strikes and we have a shortage of medical doctors already, and a lot of them are leaving the country. Are we waiting till the unfortunate happens? Then some minister will come. The health minister, what's he doing about the situation? Then some ministers will come. Oh, and it's a sad incident, and it's unfortunate that then the right thing will be done. Why can't we do it before disaster strikes? What a country. Ernest, over to you. Maybe you can understand better.
I think I will agree with your frustration. It's a bit sad how, as a country, we have not really paid attention to mental health. Already, the sector is battling inadequate mental health professionals. Now, here's the case: we are now challenged with inadequate infrastructure. Looking at how medical facilities ought to be, or the health facilities ought to be, the design and how these facilities have been constructed is also enough therapy to have patients. They have rehabilitation of patients much faster. So when you have conditions like this, how then do you expect the health professionals to give their 100%, and also patients to get well? And as I'm saying, it shows the priorities we've set for ourselves and how we have pushed mental health into the back burner. And this has been always hit on by those in the mental health area. They've always come to government to demand a lot of attention, logistics, and enough personnel to have the sector improve. Other than that, excuse me to say, we would have a lot of cases of mental issues go up in the country. It's a bit sad.
Well, in other stories, gold for oil policy, $4.8 billion to be saved yearly. I have a question, though, and this is not necessarily for you, Ernest. So that ship that had been at dock, supposedly from Russia for quite a while now, have we found ownership of it? And who has taken stock of the oil and all of that? Because Bloomberg tracked it and made mention of where its origins were, and all of a sudden it's been there for a while. Well, if we did get it from whether Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan or Russia, we might as well take stock of it. There's also Wire confirms timetable, WASI in July, September, BCE in August. And there's also personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service fighting the fire that engulfed the Ketia market in Kumasi, part of $259 million Ketia market gutted by fire. That story is on page 35. Let's take a look at it before we look at some international news, or maybe go to the story about gold for oil and then come to some international news. So parts of the Ketia market, one of the monumental projects in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, were yesterday engulfed in fire, which burnt wares estimated at millions of Ghana cedis. Always millions of Ghana cedis. Well, there were no casualties as of press time yesterday, but a few people collapsed due to suffocation and were rushed to hospital. The fire is said to have started from a store on the second floor of the market around 4 p.m. and extended to the third floor. Many traders wailed uncontrollably as thick black smoke from the burning stores in the magnificent market drifted into the afternoon sky. As of press time, there was no official communication on the cause of the fire, but eyewitnesses said they suspected an electrical fault. Now, they said the fire spread in no time due to the combustible materials on the floor where it had started. Items such as carbide, plastic, sewing materials, body spray, and perfumes are sold at that section of the market. It took firefighters from the Ghana National Fire Service a hectic time to put out the fire. I have to ask, with all of these things happening from time to time, do we ever probe arson? Arson, I said it. Arson, deliberate. Because it boggles my mind how time and again, I alone, I think I've covered about 2 or 3 of these fire incidents. Odona, Kantamanto, and other places. Every year. I think we could also have a bet like that. You see how that Canadian was betting that every year Accra would flood. I suppose if someone put in a bet that every year there would be at least one fire outbreak in a big market in Ghana, that person would win every year. It makes no sense, and especially considering how much was pumped into this Ketia market. I find it absolutely, because the measures must be put in place. Ernest.
Yes, it's rather unfortunate. We are here once again discussing fires in our big markets. You know, Ketia is a very big market considering the West African sub-region, and looking at the amount of investments that has been put together, it makes the situation rather unfortunate. I'm looking at segregation of materials. Actually, the section that got bent was supposed to house car tires, automobile products, and also we are hearing now that there was carbide in the area. You just mentioned there are sprays and perfumes all being sold. So I'm wondering why we have all these explosive materials. If I may put it that way, all in one area. You know, we in the mines, we take fires very seriously because of the dangers it poses. Even before you get burned by the heat, already you are asphyxiated by the thick dark smoke. And we need as a country to invest in our assessment of some of these markets and education as well. Because what is the Fire Service and the Energy Commission doing when it comes to auditing? Are we checking the kind of appliances our market people, market women and men are using for their daily stuff, the radios, the irons, the cooking stuff? Are we actually conducting quarterly assessments on them to see if they are worthy and they all need to be operated? Because this fires might have even been triggered by some electrical faults, which might have then got in contact with other substances. Now we are getting details, a bit of detail, though we are waiting on the Fire Service to come out with the final report, but we are getting a bit of details from eyewitnesses that this started as a small fire, got in contact with some carbide, and the explosion began. Now ties are very are materials that burn seriously when they come in contact with the closest amount of heat. And as a country, we need to be putting officers in charge of these multi-million-dollar facilities to ensure they are maintained. Thank God that the materials that were used in the construction of the market is one that could withstand fires like this. Other than that, if it was the usual brick and mortar and wood materials, I mean, we would have lost a substantial part of this $259 million project.
There's also gold for oil policy, that's on page 16. $4.8 billion to be saved yearly, that's according to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Vice President. And the country will save about $4.8 billion in foreign exchange every year as one of the benefits from the gold for oil policy, the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has said. He said the most important aspect of the policy was not just the reduction in fuel prices, but the savings the Bank of Ghana would make in foreign exchange as a result of lower demand. This has been contested by I have engaged the former head of the PIAC, the Public Interest and Accountability Commission or Committee, Dr. Steve Mantea. We've spoken to energy people. They have said that not really, not so. Let's hasten slowly. But this is what the administration is telling us. I know you're a mining engineer. Maybe you'd have interest in that. But let me just bring some international stories our way. Blinken, the top American diplomat in Ethiopia to boost U.S.-Africa engagement. That is Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. And then Guinea opposition government resumed contact. Guinea's opposition resumed contact with the military-dominated government yesterday after months of no dialogue, raising fears of rising tensions. That will be it for the Daily Graphic. Your thoughts on gold for oil?
Yes, being an engineer in the precious mineral mining space, anytime some of these things come up, I'd want to put in a comment or two. This gold for oil program or policy is not a usual feature economies get into. There should be a problem facing challenges facing the economy to go into such arrangements. Most recent, or this came to light when we had Iran accepting or welcoming gold as purchase for its oil due to US sanctions. So it's not one feature that usually gets involved into. But then saving 4.8 billion annually, I'm full. I don't have the
I mean, if that proves to be true, that would be good. After all, we're going to the IMF for a paltry 3 billion.
Yes, it's good, but it shouldn't be a usual feature of the economy, of the administration of the government. But we should look at shoring up our foreign exchange reserves other than putting out raw gold in exchange for oil. I don't know how far we'll go with that, but then all this has been as a result of the fact that we don't have the necessary foreign exchange reserves. And we also need to look at elsewhere. Other than that, as the finance minister said, we need to also hold the education of the city. When was the last time we borrowed as a country? This was way back somewhere around June last year. And not borrowing means we are not getting inflow of, because we've locked out of the capital market, we are not getting inflow of foreign exchange reserves to support our budget or make available some foreign exchange for us. So definitely, the best option would be to trade in our gold for oil to slow down the pressure on the city. It's good, but I don't think it's one that we should be looking up to for the coming years. We should work around the clock, ensure we have a lot of dollar reserves as a country to rely on. Currently, if you look at countries with a lot of dollar reserves are doing well with those most are top there than those having the gold reserves. So yes, you might say United States, right? They are the owners of dollar currency. But then looking at countries like China, Japan, they also hold substantial amount of dollar reserves, and it's working well.
Let's quickly go to the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Some interesting stories we're going to look at very quickly. WASI registration malpractices. WAEC bars 5 senior high schools for charging unapproved fees. Related to education as well, Education Minister has no power to close down schools. That's the NAT head, leadership saying that. That story is on page 13. And of course, we know that he said that some of these institutions that are producing 10% or less in terms of pass rates may be shut down. And NAT, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, is saying the Education Minister has no such powers. Engineering work on expansion of Wager water treatment plant complete, and Ghana requires $30 billion to develop nationwide railway network. That's according to the GRDA CEO. Let me focus on the stories on education, and you can quickly reflect on any others that catch your attention. So, the West African Examination Council has barred 5 senior high schools from registering candidates for this year's West African Senior High School Certificate Examination for charging unapproved fees. The affected schools are Only Star Senior High or Technical School, Abesim, Gateway SHS and Lawrence SHS, both in Sunyani, First Class SHS, Achimota, Accra, and Martin Luther SHS in Kintampo. They are said to have, quote, commercialized the registration process, putting out banners and charging prospective candidates between 1,200 and 6,750 Ghana cedis with a promise of good grades instead of the approved fee of 381.24 Ghana cedis. There's also this one. The Ghana National Association of Teachers has stated that the Minister of Education, Dr. Yawase Duchum, does not have the power to close down any pre-tertiary institution. According to the association, the relevant provisions of the Pre-Tertiary Education Act made it clear that the management of the pre-tertiary school system was the onus of the district and regional directorates of education. That's why they are saying the Education Minister has no power to go down that road. Any quick thoughts?
Seems our problems don't
Endless,
stop.
huh?
Yes, concerning this white issue, as we discussed with floods and fires, this is also a feature we ought to put an end to. It doesn't make our SHS much more credible with candidates coming out from these institutions with the qualifications. It doesn't really make them credible, and the education ministry and together with the education service should ensure that these things are taken off our system. It doesn't speak well of us.
Well, Daily Guide now, and we're wrapping up in some 2 minutes. NDC MP goofs over national award symbol. I'm talking about the Member of Parliament for South Dai in the Volta region, Roxton Nelson Dafiamakpo, my own good friend, but this time he seems to have erred because he was talking about, he posted on social media about the national awards that were recently given out by His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, which had an elephant on the rear. And he said, well, now even national events like this are riddled with partisan politics, so to speak. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what he said. But this symbol has actually been used since the days of the First Republic. It just coincides with the fact that a party with an elephant as its symbol is now in power. And he's been taking on, that story is on page 6 of the paper. Let me quickly get there for a brief look. So the Member of Parliament for South Dai, Roxton Nelson Dafiamakpo, has been exposed following his comment on the awards and medals that were given to some deserving Ghanaians by President Akufo-Addo on Tuesday, March 14. He actually posted, today this government has made the elephant, the political symbol of the MPP, our national symbol, so much that it sits on medals being awarded at a state event. Even Dr. Kwame Nkrumah didn't change our national symbols to reflect the CPP cockerel when he declared a one-party state. Sad. But of course, checks reveal that this isn't the case and that this has always been used. Kennedy floors Anas in 25 million Ghana cedi suit, corrupt terrorist. And that was the ruling of the court. We had a statement from Tiger Eye PI saying it was shocked by this stance, especially as it had accepted on certain grounds that Anas had been defamed, and yet the turnaround. We'll see how that matter turns out, whether Tiger IPI and Anas will pursue the matter further at a higher court. Henry Quartey grabs Volta order. I'm talking about the Greater Accra Regional Minister, also Member of Parliament for Ayesu Central. And no more collation system crashes, Dufour tells NDC. Any of these stories you'd like to reflect on, Ernest?
Yes, I think Henry Quartey deserves a lot. Looking at his contribution to the Accra we are seeing now, I think he deserves it. Now with the elephant, as a country, the elephant has been a pre-colonial symbol from tradition coming into government, and it's part of our symbol. So I think my senior colleague or my senior member of the NDC actually had this wrong. It has always been part of us, but it's not necessarily an MPP. Yes, it's an MPP thing, but it has been part of us as a people and as a country for years now.
Just to wrap, we have to go, Ernest, but business finders support vegetable producers, Ghanaian exporters appeal to government. Bridge development gap, U.S. envoy says, and we've ensured stability across downstream sector. That's according to the CEO of the NPA, Dr. Mustafa Hamid. We also have the Daily Statesman, fuel prices to further decline, gold for oil policy working. I like how gold for oil is being touted. I hope we don't turn around at any point to say, oh, this and oh, that. But I've heard that in recent times, I mean, soon to come, prices may decrease by about 3%. And of course, any falls in fuel prices, very, very welcome. We suffered last year. We're still suffering, considering that at a point it stood at around 5 cedis, 6 cedis, 7 cedis. If we're paying above 13, 14 cedis currently, depending on when within this year, then it is only good if the prices keep falling. And that would also inure to the benefit of those who bought public transport, the transport operators likely would be dropping their prices. I think the last time I spoke to one of the deputy PROs, Samuel Amwa, he mentioned that once it falls to about 10% or 10 CDs, actually, then they would want to decrease their prices. Any final thoughts as we go? Hello, Ernest.
Yeah, hello, Ben.
Any final thoughts as we go?
Yes, I want to comment on the gold for oil finally. As I initially commented on, it shouldn't be a feature we have to live with for a very long time. And as you said, so we don't come up with some issues that probably when we begin facing challenges we'll be making. So we should be a bit careful, because already we are not active participants, or we don't really have a lot of ownership in the mining space. So the little amount of gold we are saving, or the reserves we are building, should also not all go into this oil for gold policy. We should be looking at shoring up our foreign exchange reserves rather, and have the economy get back on track.
Thank you, Ernest, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Ernest Ayesu is a mining engineer, and he joined us for this conversation. Thank you so much, sir. We move on, but right before we get into sports, I'm going to need a sip of water when all of this is done. And guess what kind of water I'm going to be drinking? I'm going to stay awake with Awake Premium Purified Water, which is treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you and refreshes me better. We have the perfect sizes for all purposes: 330 and 500 ml bottles, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. And guess what? Our 19-liter jar bottles are ideal for homes and offices. All you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality, top-notch hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. And this is the part that busts my brain. It really warms the cockles of my heart, as someone would say. For every bottle you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center to help people who can't afford that treatment. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, just reach them on 0262 351 251. This advert, remember, is FDA approved. But we brought you the news review this morning courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They are offering you free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. Where can you locate Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic? In Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. They are also in Takrade, Anaji Estate, Community 22 in Tema, Techiman Hansua, and Isiama in Nzima. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, but only the start of sports. Yesterday, Liverpool locked horns with Real Madrid. Yeah, that's how they actually pronounce it in Castilian Spanish. So they actually had that interesting match, but Liverpool lost. Well, we have that coming up for you later in sports, but stay tuned. We have a special coming up next.
At first, I was selling one, I was taking it one bag, then I will add some drink. But now the drink is expensive and it's not moving. So what I did was, I need to take the pure 2.5 bags. Because the 2.5 bags, if I sell one bag, I get 4 cents, 50%. Things is not easy. Things is not easy. Sometimes I will be on campus and my grandma will be like, Kobe, she needs money. Stop living fake life. ya serve. Ota ebese. Na serve sister. Na serve.
The sight of Ernest wearing a suit in the steamy hot afternoon weather at Kingsway Market excites many traders. They get so excited that they rush to him to buy his chilled water. Within minutes, his water is finished. With many other sachet water vendors around, it is right to assume that the traders prolong their thirst just to buy water from a man in a suit. Ernest carries on his head a pan filled with chilled sachet water. He holds in his left hand a leather bag for his money and a tray in the right. He proudly walks through the market, ready to quench the thirst of his customers.
At first I was selling one, I was taking it one bag, then I added some drink, but now the drink is expensive and it's not moving. So what I did was, I need to take the Piota 2.5 bags, because the 2.5 bags, if I sell one bag, I get 4 cedis, 50%. So when I sell more, then I decide, then I do what? I save this.
His style of selling is unique. While other sachet water vendors wear ordinary clothes, Ernest is dressed for success. He has successfully branded himself as the suit-wearing iced water vendor. He doesn't only get eyeballs fixed on his suit, he also makes more money.
You're welcome. As I started selling, my highest water I've sold is 28 bags.
In a day?
In a day. I started 10 a.m. and I closed 6:30.
Following the death of his parents, he struggled to put himself through school. He was admitted to Accra Technical University to fulfill his lifelong dream of becoming a building contractor. With no support and a family to care for, he started selling sachet water.
Sometimes the work that we do it online, and you haven't registered, you are not part of the students. So I consulted a friend, he said, you get 700 for me. So he also gave me 700 and I paid. The second semester, it's left with 1,000 for me to add up before I can continue the second semester. Then, so during the vacation, I started selling the water.
Despite his strategy, he makes marginal profits. It is not enough to take care of his tuition and accommodation fees.
Things is not easy. Things is not easy. Sometimes I will be on campus and my grandma will be like, Kobe, she needs money, she needs money. And what should I do? I need to come to the street and come and sell. And now the school fees has increased. I was thinking as we are moving forward, it will be reducing. Not knowing as we are moving forward, and it's also increasing. So at first I pay around 1,700 and now I'm paying 2,000. It has increased to 2,000. The hostel fee too has increased.
Ernest tries to send monthly stipends to his grandmother and 2 sisters back home in the village of Agunansaba. Despite his unique selling ability, he's unable to send money frequently. Balancing education with hawking water is daunting. Today, he has ditched classes just to make enough money to pay his tuition and accommodation fees.
This semester started, I was thinking of how to pay the fees one and where I will sleep. Because my uncle's place now, I can't always sleep in a car and also come to campus. So I need to do what? Work out, go to class and come to the street and sell. And I need to also pay the school fees, and that has become my headache now.
Ernest Entry says shyness doesn't cure hunger. So he would break his back to put food on his table. But he also has his hand wide open to anyone who would help.
You're welcome.